We are Joycore Studio.
I'm Erica.
I'm Asha.
And I'm Josie.
And together we've been working alongside entrepreneurs from both business and NGO spaces, grassroots community members, and industry thought leaders to facilitate and empower communities to design solutions to the complex, wicked problems they face.
This podcast grew out of a desire to explore the role and effectiveness of design thinking and systems practice within those wicked problems. Over the last 3 years, a central theme of our work in one such wicked problem has been about understanding and exploring the challenge of reintegration for survivors of human trafficking and bonded labor. And this is what we'll be exploring in these episodes. Each episode in this series starts out with a conversation with our guests, and then Josie, Asha, and I spend a couple of minutes discussing what we've learned and how that applies or could apply to our work and broaden our thinking. Satya Chakrapani is a serial entrepreneur with 20 plus years of experience in building microfinance businesses and ecosystems. He also enables entrepreneurship in the lower economic spectrum and other marginalized groups. He believes in collective wisdom, has a curiosity for learning, and is an innovator who always thinks about future possibilities. Satya is a pioneer in the entrepreneur development space in India and collaborative partner of Joycore. We've been lucky to work with him on a recent project, and we'll talk about this in the episode. We felt like this was an important topic because through our research, we continue to encounter this dynamic of NGOs struggling to build a for-profit model, while for-profit organizations finding it hard to hold on to a social mission. Satya has operated in the space between the two, so we were really keen to pick his brains about the challenge. Thank you, Satya, for joining us today. It is really wonderful to have you on here and just listen to the wealth of knowledge you have to share. So my first question would be, and this is kind of just a warm up. So in the studio, when we're designing workshops or solutions, we always think about people as heart, soul, mind, strength, and consider what we are designing, reaching, and impacting each of these areas. So heart, when you think of heart, we're thinking about mostly feelings, emotions, empathy, compassion. When you think of soul, we're thinking about beliefs, values, morals. When you think of mind, we're thinking mostly of intellect, thinking, and knowledge, and strength is basically your physical body. And so how do you bring your whole self, your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength to the work that you do?
Oh, thank you so much, ladies, for inviting me to be with you here. One is that I really enjoy working with Joy Corps and particularly you girls because my particular experience in Bihar as was very exciting. The commitment that you demonstrated with the work, the creativity, the energy, that really motivated, and that has given a lot of hope for this kind of projects, which are not very easy projects in the world. They are very frustrating at times, but so it's a privilege to walk with you. I don't know whether I have a length of wisdom and knowledge. It's just here, I think I am slightly older than you, and that itself makes a few more bad experiences, some more good experiences, and that adds things. So hopefully you will reach there soon as well as you progress in your world. Coming to your question on this, how to bring the whole self to the work. It's very difficult to divide self. Somebody asked me, how do you strike a balance between your family life, your personal pursuits, professional pursuits? And I paused for a minute and I realized that this whole concept of having a balance itself is something which is non-biblical. It is something which comes from the very utilitarian world. It comes from the more world where people become gods in people's life. So they have control to decide things and all that. The biblical narrative suggests since inception that we are in the midst of tensions, and it's how to manage these tensions. when the tensions come, you actually can't manage well if you do not have grace and a hope. So I try to strike sort of with the help, with a sense that's okay. God is there with me, and as He called me. So when I'm walking, even if I made a mistake, He will make sure it is not remain a mistake. Because if I am doing with the sense that He's called, then I think my commitment is, my role is that I should give myself fully, and the rest of the things that He's going to do. So very understanding of herself. If I am made in the image of God, that's one of the most powerful statements in the world, in the whole literature, if somebody has written, that the man is made in the image of God. There is no more powerful statement than this I have ever come across. And that motivates me. If I'm made in the image of God, so I'm actually little God to many people's life in the places where I am. And if I know that I'm made in the image of God, that I'm image bearer of God. Imagine if I grew up in the rural areas where I said, this fellow is, the older one is like his father, is very humble, but this fellow looks very arrogant. Those kind of statements actually shake you, because it's you are carrying somebody's image, you're carrying somebody's the value. So that kicks it well, in sense that's okay. If I am going to work, I'm going to work with the sense that I'm made in the image of God, so I'm going with that. God is there because He said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." How would otherwise understand these verses or these promises? So if He never leaves me nor forsake me, then let me go and do whatever I should. I should give my, and then if it is from His plan, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, nothing is going to get wasted, because ultimately God makes things possible. So for me, it's just walking every day a life. I feel this is the privilege I have, that I need to show up every day. I need to show up with that excitement and courage and hope. If I don't have that experience, then I can't impart with anybody else. So that takes me. I'm of course, Bible further. I mean, it gives you enormous wealth. It's saying that every now and then says that do whatever do with all your heart. How will you do it? With all your, it says, love your God with all your soul, with all your might, with all your heart. And if you do that, and then it says, love your neighbor as yourself. So it's there's nothing left. I think that's if I believe in that God, then I cannot go in compartments. I have to go as whole, and that's what my basis.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Satya, I have a question, and it is, so in a South Asian context, from a lot of the work that we've been doing of late, we've seen how many NGOs struggle to build for-profit models, while for-profit organizations often find it hard to hold on to a social mission. And so, from what we've seen of you, we've seen that you're someone who works between the two spaces. And so, just trying to understand, what has your journey been like?
Well, thank you. As I said, you guys reminded me of this particular space, which I wasn't thinking. But let me come back. I think the first time I went to, I told my dad that I'm going to join an NGO and to do a social work. And so he said, "How can you do social work when you have nothing, no penny of your own?" Because he did all his life this work. So what he did is all of this. He opened schools. He's funded a lot of children for their education. He did several things. I mean, he was like carrying open check to give. Anybody ask if he has money, he would give. If he doesn't have, he may say, "No, I don't have." But if he has, he'll give. So he operated from that space. So he asked this question, and that conversation, I said, "Okay, let me understand. But one day I'll become rich, and I'll do this." That was that happened in '95, I guess. These conversations. But coming back to this question that you, Asha, asked, I'm an entrepreneur. I recognize this as the human being is born with enormous capacity. And if this enormous capacity, and we all are entrepreneur in different way. I think this literature sometimes divides us, and every writer for their own self, they write different perspective and all of those. Academics have also taken this compulsion to write in each of these areas and divide disciplines and all that. But to me, I'm an entrepreneur. I was part of the when in the mid career I took a break and went to study entrepreneurship. There were 64 people, sorry. And out of 64 people, they all were studying entrepreneurship, but all are not doing entrepreneurship. Or many of them working. I mean, the 4-5 guys came and worked for me as well. So it's a recognition of your realization what you are doing, how you're going to do it. Sustainability is an issue because any project that you build, how are you going to sustain it? I also realized that my father said that education is the key. Now, his definition of education was not the typical education you go class 1 to 16. His education was there, gave an understanding of the person how to take decisions, build certain skills. So education is in his strength. And if you are able to work with people and think how they can, because everybody has the same capability as I have. So it's mean if I have got an opportunity to I can think, other people need to have this opportunity to think. So when I started microfinance, I started with the hope, and that's even somebody said, what are you going to fund? And I said, I'm not going to fund enterprise. I'm going to fund to people. People need to have their idea where they want to invest. And this was a bit of a conflict. How do you know that the people are putting money in right place? I said that question arises to me as well. When you're giving money, how do you know that I'm going to put money in right place? And many did not put in the right place. Many people took the money off from this. Somebody bought a $1 million villa in California, taking the money from microfinance and earning. So it's a different. Looking at that, same customers today has become a customer who is employing 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 people. The one who I first time funded 30,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees even. So doing this, if I do this, so this gives me two things. One, I do the same thing. I impart education. I walk with them with a hope and opportunity, and I support them as an entrepreneur myself to another entrepreneur. These people, they are in terms creating jobs opportunities, and they are giving my money back, which is giving me a profit. Where I have now today, not very good financially position at this moment, but I have 670 odd people who are paid a very good salary. I would have never imagined just simply doing if I'm raising a fund. I also run a charity which is completely based on donation. But where I should ask the donation from? I'm asking to the individual friends, those who are making money, to support, because there you can't do much. So you have to look at sustainability. You have to look at the long-term view. You also have to look at when you are investing in the people, it is going to work and live longer. I'm not sure whether sustainability goes eternity and sort of things. But there is sustainability in the sense that your work that need to multiply. Your work need to give an opportunity to someone else as well. So hands up and hands down situation, that's what it works. So for me, that was the best, because I thought you cannot go asking money for any project. I'm also a believer that my problem I should take care of. But to do that, I need to know my problem, and I also need to know what resources I have. So these are the things that we have operated. I continue to struggle with that. It's not something very easy path, because people keep asking the question, so are you running an NGO or are you running a business? So the banker who comes, who thinks, okay, I'm running more like NGO, said investors, no, they are not interested. The impact guy comes and he says, oh, you are doing a business or you are doing this side. So how many? So he says, no, you are too commercial. So it's actually a very difficult path for me. It's everyday struggle for me to continue to say. But I believe in it. And I thought, I think, and there are quite a few other people are thinking that this is the right way to go. So I didn't choose it, but as I started traveling, the path, I could see something I did not see, but kept walking. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, Asha.
You have, and I think I love that you highlighted that idea of the importance of investing in people, because I feel like eventually people forget that in that whole rat race of doing what you have to do. So thank you for that, Satya. Yeah.
My next question to you would be, so I've heard you talk about this. You started off by, and you mentioned this as well, you started off by providing microloans to communities, which at the time you felt was the need. But you've also since moved on from that in like to go into a more community support type function, which I think is what you do currently. And so I want to ask, like, what made you make that change? And do you think microloans have or don't have as much of an effect on community transformation anymore?
Erica, none of these things are going to be irrelevant ever. Poor are going to live, rich are going to live. Divide between the poor and rich is continuing going. Basically, the Piketty report has come, Piketty report of Piketty report. I don't know what the term called, which has highlighted that Indian disparity today, the gap between the rich and poor, is gone as bad as before 1980s. This is happening when economy, we are saying that we are fifth largest economy, and we are aiming to become fourth and aiming to become third, and so on. The rhetoric of this growth is coming. So this report highlights that you are never going to do away with poor, never going to do away with rich and divide and this disparity. So somebody was saying, okay, if all this happens, at least we social workers don't need to be. I said the social worker was right from the day of humanity and will continue to the end of the humanity, till the end of the humanity. If you are sensitive, you will continue. If you're not sensitive, then you don't hear. Many people don't hear this cry. So it's a choice. So microloans continue to be relevant. So I think the correction is the microloan, we continue to do microloans. The size of the microloan has changed. When I began 7,000 rupees. Today, the beginning is 70,000 rupees. So you see that's a trajectory. But if we can only do the microloans, then what will happen? How will they grow? So if I were doing, we are currently doing the strategy, and tomorrow I have a meeting with all the product leads, where we are designing that the people, those who have taken loan of 4-5 cycles, they have built their assets 4-5 times more than the first loan you gave. It means they're qualified to be taken loan 2-3 times of their asset size, which means they have need to assess whether they have ability to create more. And if you are able to do that, we should go and increase our create a separate product focus, more hand-holding to entrepreneurs and funding them as an entrepreneur individually rather than group loans. That's so movement happening. But also doing the fund. Our product is so somebody who has gone through all of this, or may not have gone through all of this, but they are in the space where they are operating where they need a $500,000 rupees to 2 million rupees. How to help them, because they are entrepreneurs who are going to create more jobs. They are the entrepreneurs who need the money, and if you don't provide, they will crush, because the market is not very charitable to these kind of segments. So we have that as well. But it's also important that how to make sure that these are not individuals in isolated world. We are part of the society. If together we don't connect, and if they all don't understand that, that's either we begin with the first group loaning and developing this whole culture of I care my brothers, I am my brother's keeper, I care my neighbor. if you don't bring these values, not that we don't have these values, it's just because of the rush of the survival. We ignore these things because they become secondary for me because I need food first. But when these things are coming, we need to just remind them. And I think the people are very open. People love these values. People like to live with these values. So it is not something that we are bringing something new. It's just being part of the society to help them to see who they are. It's very important. Also important as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a very lonely journey, entrepreneurship. When you are good, doing very well, you are alone. And when you are falling, also you're alone. So how to help them to be care of one another? That's important. And that's in the community. For me, the community is the fundamental for prosperity. Prosperity is just not having few $100 extra in your bank account. If the prosperity is that something that people that we have the care, we have a love, we have all of this. And most of the time when we focus on enterprises or entrepreneurship, we think that because I have money, I can manage all alone. That's which I've experienced in last 20 plus years. And I have fallen many times. I have been gone through the depression. I have gone through those challenges, stress, where I felt that nobody's around. Life is ending. And at times I told God, I said, why don't you fail me completely, decimate me, and let me start again? I have prayed that kind of prayer because it's the Lord. So the community is very important, Erica. And when you, and that's even when we go to the rural areas and the people, those more deprived world, we need to focus, how can we build that community? If the community is there, many times their deprivation will not lead them into trafficking or of those kind of places. It's just society when it gets into more lonely path, everyone start falling. And poverty has one of the most powerful weapons to engage and disunite humanity. That's why I understood right in the beginning. By virtue being grew up in a village where 15 odd children were growing up in my home, and I didn't know until my age of 12, 13, 14, I guess, how many siblings were up. I thought we were 15 siblings. We realized later we were only 4, because all other were somebody's children studying in a home, living with us for years. So these are the things I picked up from there, and I'm really thank God for that the opportunity that I had to grow up that way.
Thank you, Satya. I really like that. I feel like when people say it does take a village, it really does take a village to do anything, not just in supporting a business, but even the thriving of that community takes the entire community. Yeah, I really, really like that.
Satya, when you are approached by somebody who wants to access a microloan, what is it that you look for in that person or in their proposal or opportunity that makes you want to invest in them?
Interesting. So let me reverse the question that you asked. Actually, my answer is going to be a little slightly reversing side. We don't approach customers. A customer doesn't approach us. We go to customer. We look for people. And when we look for people, there's few people are there in that. We ask them, do you have people around you? And how many of you are people like you who want to do something, they don't have resources? And then they go and find those people. And I said, so you are a community. So first we invest in building that. In urban center, you have to create an artificial community. And then it becomes in rural areas, you get the community. It's natural. Sometimes we have to play a role that, okay, we need to manage community dynamics here. Here we have to create the community dynamics before we manage into. So it works out. So we go to customers and we start building them. First thing we look at primarily for microloans. do they have a community? If somebody falls, who will stand for them? And at times they recognize it, many times they don't recognize it. So then we have to invest a few more days to help them. And once they understand, they come together. So sometimes we also test it. Is it because they are making us fool? They've just come, so they take the money and tomorrow they will not be there. Then we take them through some kind of bit of education and conversations. So journey begins to build that. So it's not we look at individual entrepreneur. And once the community is built, then we look at the individual entrepreneur, what they are doing individually, how long they have been on the way. Have they done it before? If they have not done it before, if they're going to do something, do they really know where they're going to get their stuff, where they're going to sell the matter, where they're going to produce, who is the one who's buyer, who is the one who's supplier. All those come at the next level. Once the community is built up, we've understood that they can live together. That's where our focus is.
That's great to hear. That's, a completely different way round to how I had in my head as to how microloans often function. Satya, is there a particular industry or business type that is particularly successful in the rural space and sphere when it comes to the work that you do in microloans?
In the most of the micro loans, they begin more not as a production units. They either become part of some ancillary ancillary of the industry. If there is industry coming up, they either become a trader or they become agri-allied. So very quick is that they become animal husbandry people, because you take the buy a buffalo. If it is already milking, your revenue will start tomorrow. If it is waiting, it may start 1 month later. So you might have to only go 1 or 2 installments of your own, have to arrange, and then this all will start coming. So it depends on the area where they are. At times, but what we make sure that whatever they do, they should be legally tenable. Because it's not something that I remember this one guy came and it happened during my visit to the field in a semi-rural area, semi-urban area. And so the guy had bought, I looked at it and I said, he is opening a clinic. And I said, doctor needs 50,000 rupees to open a clinic? That alerted me. And I thought, I want to meet this customer. And then I realized he was a quack. He needed a place and needed some money to buy medicines and his syringe and some injections and all that. That was completely illegal. He can go and kill someone. I had to go and call the person. I said, see, either you pay the money back or I will report to the police that because you are not a certified doctor. So what you have to do, first we have to recover the money. Then we have to help him to understand that you cannot do this business. And he should not do this business. And so the customer were upset. Why you? He's good. Whenever we need, he's there. All those things are there. Unfortunately, we don't have a system which I at one point in time I wrote a paper in late 90s asking different NGOs, public health organizations that engage with quacks and train them, because you cannot replace them. But anyway, that's a different matter. No, I don't know whether nobody looked at it, because it was coming from, I was in my 20s and nobody even gave heed to those statements. So as I said, that was illegal enterprise, and I couldn't have reported even that I have given it. I had to stop that business. So we look at those. They're like vegetable vendor. People take the money, go and buy vegetable and sell it to the market. Perfectly, that works. In a place where somebody took money, a lady was there, and she bought grains, and that she supplies grains to urban centers. I mean, all kind of people are amazingly creative, Josie. And I learned in very beginning, early in my career or as an entrepreneur, it is not we going to tell the people what they should do. People need to tell what they want to do it, and then we can understand whether we can work with them or not.
Mm. That's great. And it's really cool to hear that people have that creativity and that desire to explore businesses that they're passionate about as well. And I guess from the businesses that we've experienced working with, when you have an entrepreneur who has both that passion and that idea and that technical ability or support, and like you said, that community, then those are real ingredients for flourishing and for success, I
Absolutely.
think, those entrepreneurs. So, Satya, moving on a little bit now. As we were thinking through questions for you, and we've been lucky enough to travel with you a bit this year, and we get to work with you, and you always come out with incredible nuggets of wisdom around finance and business structure and fair pay and how to work with communities. You've been doing it for such a long time. And I was just reflecting as well on my experience of running a business and being connected with Joycore through that. And the challenge perhaps of, as a business owner, how do you navigate paying people in a way that respects their dignity and contribution, whilst also keeping the business running and profitable? And this can be a challenge, especially when people are starting out. And maybe also with some of the fellows that Joycore's worked with in the past, like how do you balance both of those things, wanting to create a profitable business, but also wanting to honor the work that's being done by the employees?
Very good question, Josie. And the industry is filled with all kind of practices. When I prepared the first business plan, my business plan was not showing a profitability for 2 years. And the reason I was the salaries. And then the business analyst who was the investor had employed and said, you do not have a profitability. I said, you suggest where I should improve our business process. So he said, actually, your salaries are bulk of that adding to your losses. And I said, if I have to work, I need people. And if I need people, I need to pay to them. So they said, showed me a chart. What was the industry paying? Now, the industry was paying 50% of the minimum wage. And for me, it was, how should I accept it? And I knew if I continue to hold on, the investor, at the end of it, investor wants to see profitability in the business. So if I do this, if I change according to him, he may invest money in my business. And I have not even started. I was just scoping. And then if I say, no, I'm not going to accept your point of view because every person has to be paid what minimum wage plus is. So argument came from one of those, because where question came, where are you going to get the people from? So I said, I am not going to employ people in Delhi. I am going to go to the field in the villages, because my privilege is that I am a villager and I know villages. So I will go. All the agricultural laborers, they will be 12th standard pass or above. I will bring them. We have to ultimately train anybody, whether it's an undergrad or MBA or 12th standard. We'll get them a train and they will do this business. So I'm not going to have a shortage of people. So he said, okay, so agricultural labor, how much they earn? And so if they earn only this much, why you want to pay them 3 times more than what they are? You just pay 1.5 times, they will be very happy. I said, no. I don't want to have a foundation of my business on lies and corruption and exploitation. I would not like to do anything if I'm not able to do that. I said, today you are enticing me to do this. Tomorrow you will ask me something else. And I'm not going to be led by that greed. So if you're interested, I would abide this and you have to work with us. That was a beginning. So I have decided that's okay. It is a choice of us whether we want to have a business on the wrong foundation or the right foundation. I don't know why. The truth should be easier to travel, but the lies have got all the easy paths. Truth has got a tough traveling. But that's the world we are in, where we find. So we struggle. We continue to struggle. Many times these came. Oh, don't increase salary this time. Don't increase. You pay this way. You don't pay that way. You do this adjustment. You do that adjustment. A chartered accountant will come. He'll map, and every time they will say you can earn 30% more if you do this. I didn't agree on that. They said, so you do not know how to run business. I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a businessman. For me, it's to create an enterprise that can serve people longer. So that was the struggle. So if you have to, it's a hard, and I know that's the enticement in the market is so much to take these shortcuts and exploit people. And people, the question came, another question was raised by, and they were all well-meaning people. They were quite ethical, very spiritual, all that kind of people. But how do they know that you are exploiting them? You are actually giving them better life than they have in village. But you are also taking something better so your company can serve them more. I said, see, we have all these arguments. But if I start with this one wrong, I cannot go and tell my team not to do second wrong. And I said, there's one day I will not be able to figure out where I'm standing. It was hard. So I had to wait for a few more months to get investments. So it's a choice that you have to make. But no enterprise will, I mean, people earn money because I think everybody exploiting and earning money and they're rich. What do we want to be? I want to be alone rich, or I want to be 670 people together rich. My richness is that. So it's a choice. It's a very difficult. It's a difficult when I have to. I don't have money to pay my daughter's fee, and I needed money. It tells I'm giving salary to 770 people, 670 people, and I'm not able to pay one person's equal to one person's wages to my daughter's fee. It actually hurts at times, but hurts for what? To do wrong or right? I need to do a little more work. So I don't know whether I'm answering your question, Josie, but I'm just saying that this is how I've been traveling. And thankfully, God has given us good people around us.
Yeah, that's incredible, Satya. And it's just such a description of where your wealth lies. Like, where does true wealth lie? What is true wealth? And it's not just monetary value at all. It's so many other things that you have, yeah, articulated so clearly. And do you think that since the time that you were looking for that investment and making those decisions and figuring out for your business and yourself, what are my values and morals in this space? Do you feel like the funding opportunities and investment opportunities in India and the South Asian context are moving towards more of a understanding of, people before profit? Or how has that progressed over the last few years or decades, and how is that progressing? Do you see it moving forward?
I think I'm seeing a little more in my generation and generation below me. I don't know is it right to say or not, but I think we were pretty not a very honest generation. A generation below me also not like that. But I have hope from the Gen Z. They are pretty articulate, very straightforward, very assertive. So my sense is they are able to assert more for whatever reasons. I mean, there are some sociological reasons we can analyze. But our generation was not that. So if you look at all the investors, a high net worth individual of my age, which are like either trying to touch the 50 or below, or little over 50s and below 60s, if you look at below 60s and 40s, you will find these are the bunch of people who are high net worth individual. They have done a lot of earn money, but they are this generation is also pretty uncharitable block. I'm not sure globally, but South Asia certainly it is. And I can say the Asian perspective is actually seems to be like, if you go China, Russia, Japan, they are not very philanthropic in mind. And question once I was asked, so people don't want to, how would you encourage people to come to this space that I am in? Whether the philanthropy is good or investment is good. I had coined that time a word, and there is a podcast, a five episode, 5 minutes podcast. Somebody recorded somewhere in the Google, YouTube they are running. It's called philanthrovesting. Now, if you look at that philanthrovesting mind, somehow I'm not seeing that big in number today, and that's a painful. People do charity because some people are still very good, and that's reason I think we are all surviving, because there are some good. There is never a world where you have all the bad people or all the good people. There is always a tension, and we have to, as I said in the beginning, that we have to navigate with these tensions. I haven't seen that it has grown. I have more challenges to defend what I was defending 20 years back. It's a very hard to tell a person, and I have seen in the investment market, there's been absolute lies. People, in the name of impact investing, they have never looked at impact. They have all kind of bribe, all kind of corruption investing in a particular enterprise, losing money because they are fund managers. And they're all from the same age group. So I'm somehow seeing that generation, but I'm more hopeful in Gen Z generation, like generation 25 or below. If you look at, there seems to be more on ground or more confident to assert their position. My hope is that probably 20 years down the line, 15 years down the line, we'll have more philanthropists in the market, where we will be able to talk all of this. Time will come of that. But I've seen over a period, because people have, in the name of impact investment, they have put a lot of money, but which has not gone in impact world. And that has brought a bad name to impact world. So if you go to investors, I said that we are asking for impact fund. He said, where is impact? There has been for 30 years the impact in the funds. Where has gone? And they will give you all the numbers, and numbers are not wrong. They would not tell you that they have never cared. That's okay if I am putting my money into a fund, whether that fund is truly putting into impact invest. I have there is impact invest. I'm not going to name any of this, and I know quite a few. I have been part of setting up funds. I have myself drafted a fund, and I have been part of, and I have negotiated for some people. But one fund comes and says, we will take 3% upfront. Okay, is an impact fund from the fraternity that we belong to, and we need a 9%. So I said, fine, we will give you, but so take care of the hedging cost. No, we don't want to do the hedging. That is your problem. So you take in foreign currency, give me money back in foreign currencies. Now tell me, is this fund impact? Is this fund? I used a very harsh word. I said, it looks like that you are bigger thug than other thugs. But if you go there, this kind of funding is, and where they're getting money, as a charity. They're getting money as a philanthropic contribution. So we are not very honest in the fraternity we are in. We are not very honest. Somebody listed, send me a list of impact and kingdom focus funds and all kind of list. And I knew 4 or 5 there. I said, that's absolutely nonsense if you call them this impact fund. And I called the editor of that list who listed it down. Finally, he had to remove some of those names. So we don't know. We are also pretty unaware, and everybody is become a impact investor advisor nowadays. But impact investment has been a challenge. I think it's far more easier to go to a corporate fund and say that this is the area I operate. I will not be able to give you 20% returns, but my attempt is that I may be able to give you 15%. And they may be very open to say that get lost. We don't care for you. But then somebody might be interested in that, okay, let me try one. Whereas the impact is actually more expensive because the time they take and the requirements that came. My company was the first one who actually commissioned to do a social reporting, social return on investment to understand if you that way. Had a report. No investor asked about that. No lender asked about it. No government person asked about it. It was sitting in my table. And I continue to do that. That was expensive. So I think that we don't have that whole culture from that to look at it. I'm not sure whether I'm responding to your question and I'm ranting my own frustration. So
No, it's so insightful to hear because you're right, in many ways, just as you explained with that list that had different people on there, greenwashing and what we call things is such a vast thing right now across so many different industries. Even when you think about sustainability or the environment or impact, even us as an organization are exploring what does social impact actually mean? Like, what does that look like for entrepreneurs who want to have businesses that are good for the planet and good for people, but also want to get to a place where they can feed their families and are profitable. And just like you said, the sacrifices that that takes when it comes to your own family in some sense as well, and the what you've given to be able to employ 670 people on a fair salary is really incredible. And so these are such topical issues that I think each of them could be their own podcast episode. And we're just skimming the surface really in terms of these areas and issues, but they're so important to hear about from an Indian perspective as well. And so, Satya, we are kind of coming into closing now, but we were, as I mentioned before, really lucky enough to travel with you on a project in Bihar earlier this year. And the project was looking at reintegration and employment and entrepreneurship opportunities for survivors of bonded labor in really rural areas of Bihar. And your knowledge and wisdom really fed into that dialogue and that conversation. And we were able to visit as well some of the villages and witness some of the cooperatives that were being started. And I know the cooperative model is something that you're also really interested in and exploring. But we also spoke about the opportunity of a freedom fund and thinking through, okay, when you've got communities in very rural areas, how do you fund that kind of work? And what does it take to fund that type of work over what time scale and at what cost? And so I was just wondering if you could share a bit of your heart around this idea around a freedom fund and where that kind of came from and where you see it going.
see where it came from. I mean, as I said, it was a privilege to walk with you. I think I wish I had your gang in with me when I started this because a lot of these things I was shouldering alone would have got a little more support and might have been much better than position than what we are in today. So it's a privilege for me, personal enrichment. Coming back to your question, it's how the idea came. Idea came because I think I was aware of because I grew up in a village, so I'm aware of bonded labor. Many times we don't even consider some of those people as a bonded labor. We think there is a privilege for them that they are working somebody, so at least getting food and shelter, protection. We didn't have an idea of freedom at that point in time, which grew over the period, and then I started understanding it. So to remind someone that you are imprisoned, and then the person said, "Okay, so how I need to get out, or how do I need to get out of it?" They can't come out of because they don't even understand what they are. So somebody has to work and to get them out of it. Once they come out of this, they say, okay, I've never lived outside. I don't know how to live there. So we need to work with them so they can understand what the society is and how cruel and how good society is, what pitfalls could be, where they can go back to the position. And it's not only that, but it's also to work with the people, those who have capability to imprison them again. So they are not threatened by this, neither they become a threat. So it's a lot more community politics, which we are afraid of doing it, but we'll have to play that role. And so I was looking at more from the activist perspective. But in 2000, I think it was 10, IJM came to me and they were asking me to help them to set up their business in India. And I said, what are you looking at? So they were looking at this, seeing people who were trafficked or bonded laborers. And I said, after that, what? So then they need to get an opportunity to work somewhere and free. I said, they cannot be. You need to walk with them. The activism's definition is that you need to walk with them till the end. Otherwise, you're betraying. So, and rescuing someone, freeing someone, it's activist work. And activism is not only the piece for the in the sphere of the social work. No, in the industry, I'm activist because I've been asking some of those bank tough questions, and I have to pay for that. So we have to be activists, and I'm a bunch of that kind of. At times, I've been warned that you don't be activist. You are an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur, I am an activist. I don't think that we can separate these characters. So if you want them, then the question came, how do you want to? I've said, if you want to have a plan to free up 200 people in next 3 years, what's the money you're going to spend in that? And then require this 70% of the overheads were going in $1 million. And I said, if you're going $1 million or like that, why don't you set up $2 million a fund? Because nobody is going to give them money right in the beginning. And nobody is going to partner with them because they will be unskilled. So they need to be skilled, they need to be walked along, they need to be partner with someone. And then they need to be part of the kind of ecosystem where they can work. And to do that, you need to have seed capital. So that is where it came. So I thought, okay, if my company makes a profit sometime, we need to set up a freedom fund. Because they said, that is not our job. Our job is only to free people. And then the government's job is to take care of their people. I said, if the government had that kind of understanding of obligation, then you are not required at all. But that's a tragedy of the project-based, these kind of ideas. So the idea of the Freedom Fund emerged from there. Now, my business never reached to a point where I could suggest. What I did was, in my larger game, what I did, we funded lots of the sex workers who wanted to get out of, and we never talked about it because it's not. So they became part of the communities. We funded lots of them. There were the lepers who were excluded and others. We funded lots of the refugees also, which are like from there. Because they had got those days was Aadhaar and all, this was a pretty new thing, it was not there. So we were able to do that. We did it. And I have seen this, but I could never set up a fund because I could never reach to a profitability on that. But whenever I get an opportunity, I talk to people. If they're really interested in this, before getting into getting somebody out of those captivity, you need to first do this because we need to be planning beforehand of their life, about their life, and with their life when they're out of it. That's the reason I've been talking it, and it's so it is. Yeah. So the Freedom Fund comes from there, and it takes time. So when we invest with these kind of people, we really need to enlarge our parameters to assess the enterprise and their indicators. It won't happen in 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years. So if some business we're looking at, somebody can be sustainable in 4 years, 5 years, some businesses. We also need to understand they may have a good business, but they as a human being, where they have come from, they need more time to even recognize that they are as good as I am.
Mm.
And it will take a longer time. So initially, I always suggest that somebody has to be an entrepreneur alongside with them. Because it will take time for them to become an entrepreneur independent. So somebody is an entrepreneur. It could be organization, it could be cooperative, it could be activist. Somebody has to play that role. And over a period, they should be the awareness that they have to, every gap, they have to take that role. And so you will see in few, I don't know what could be the time frame, but you may see in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 4 years time, that each one of them becoming independent.
Mm.
So it's a different way to think about this sector, but it's a very novel, it's very promising. It's really satisfying to do that, because entrepreneurship has power to do that.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Satya, I love how you talk about time being such an important factor. And you're talking about not immediate things, when in a world we live in such an instant, right at the tip of your fingertips type, everybody wants quick results. And so how do you, even you as an entrepreneur, how do you make sense of that time? Or how do you remind yourself to take it slow? And then we can end after that question. But
I don't know, Erica, if I'm able to every time assert my position at this. I think it's a constant negotiation. At times I'm able to prevail, but some time I'll also see some people who come to talk to me, probably are younger to my age. So in Indian society, South Asian perspective, we can play that role as well. And I'm older than you and I know more. So sometimes I manipulate using those kind of things.
sure.
But yeah, it's a constant negotiation. It's I'm going in the market at the moment to raising capital for veterinary service business. Now, everybody said that nobody has thought. So one interesting question somebody asked, interesting on the investment fund. He said, such a noble idea, such a brilliant idea. But Satya, I wonder if this idea has a problem. I said, tell me. Nobody other than has thought about it. If it is so good, somebody would have picked up by now. Now, what response should I give it to this kind of a stupid analysis? Now, I'm an entrepreneur. My job is to look for some new area of problems where I need to find a solution, and that can become. Other thing, they were saying, no, make it technology so that it doesn't require a human interaction. And I said, brother, I will not do a business where we cannot employ people. I'm an entrepreneur. I will set up an enterprise that has opportunity to give more job opportunities. If my work as an impact work, which where we are trading, if we do not do the labor intensive work, then we are actually not in the place where we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
By doing the labor intensive work, you actually can sustain, because this is helping people. This is also providing job opportunities to people. Otherwise, it's simple. I can create a telemedicine. I mean, it doesn't take much time. I would have been simplest to do this, and I go and make a presentation that with telemedicine, I've connected to 200,000 farmers. Whether they access services or no access services, nobody cares. It's like Jan bank accounts. I could have done it. But then neither that serves people, the farmers, nor it is serving to the job creation perspective, point of view. So for me, anything we do, we need to know that with this, how many jobs we can create. And impact the piece, the fraternity that we belong. I would always encourage entrepreneurship where they are labor intensive, because that is where you can create jobs. That is where you can create prosperity. And otherwise, it's a technology-driven projects and all. You find two guys and creates and all that. And technology is also very short term, because either you get in 2 years' time your returns, or you don't get at all. So in 2 years' time. In my kind of business, you need to wait 4 or 5 years to look at whether what is it happening. But in entrepreneurship, I was taught at the very first. I met my professor after a long time, my dean, and it was so nice to meet him. And he reminded me, he said, Satya, I continue to, because he talked what I'm doing, and I was told all of this. And he said, you are the one who has picked up that statement quite closely. And his first statement was, entrepreneurship is what? You need to look at your enterprise, analyze break-even point, and remember, the shorter the break-even, shorter the life of the enterprise. And that was pretty profound. I never forgotten. And that I would relate to another tall man said it. It was Ratan Tata. Somebody asked that you have been for so many 100 years and you are nowhere close to the Ambani. Look at the Ambanis where they have reached. Their businesses have grown. So he said, Tatas are not to create businesses and do the business for profitable. Tata are there to develop the enterprise so can create more enterprises. And it's a very profound statement. So many companies of Tata's might have not taken the break even or have taken the break even, but every company is giving to the social sector.
Yeah.
So coming to this, it's a I don't know why I said it. What was the question? Sorry.
We were talking about time and how you
Yeah.
yeah, but I think you answered it really well, really beautifully, because it is humbling to know that it's okay to even wrestle with the fact that we live in a very fast-paced world, but you gotta remind yourself to it's okay, things do take time, and there's beauty in that too.
Yeah, it is. The beauty is not beauty is agnostic of any ideas. Beauty is beauty. It can exist independently.
Yeah. Thank you, Satya, very much.
Yeah. Yeah, Satya, you are an entrepreneur and you're definitely an activist, but you're also definitely a pioneer. And it's been such a joy to chat with you today and that we get to work with you as well. It's a real treat. So thank you for your time.
It's a privilege.
Yeah.
So the ladies is a privilege, and you ladies, the way you work, you inspire. So I'm glad that the Joy Corp has, but I envious of Joy Corp that they have you. We need to have as well.
Thank you. Bye.
God bless. Bye. Take care.
So, taking a moment to sit with what we just heard, here is the team's reflection.
I think one of the things that really jumped out to me about the conversation with Satya, one of the many things, was how he talks about being both an entrepreneur and an activist. And I really liked how he embraced that role of being an activist. And he really spoke about how it's not just social workers who should take on that role, that within any industry, you have to be an activist. And he spoke about even with the banks, like asking those challenging questions. And you can tell that he's spent his whole life, I think he said it when we were talking about investment and whether there's been movement towards more acceptance of kind of social impact models with investment, he said his job's not got easier over the last 20 years, it's got harder. And you can tell that he's a man who has just really thought, not thought with your mind, but thought with your heart, soul, mind, and strength for people and for change, and as somebody who's really held on to realism and truth. Like he is somebody who has not taken the easy route. Like all of our podcast guests, I think that's a running theme. None of them have taken the easy route. But I really loved how he embraced that word of activism and that title for himself because it's quite a bold word with a lot of connotations.
Mm.
But he had for me has reframed what an activist can be and could be, which I really liked.
Yeah, that's that's actually pretty. I like that you said that he reframed what activism means to you, because I was thinking that too. It's like he stands up and he has these he's pretty strong in like in his morals, it seems like. And so, but at the same time, he comes across as such a gentle personality and with so much of that care and compassion. And yeah, and maybe that's what that's what a person needs in terms of, and maybe that's why he's like such a good fit to be able to balance those two perfectly, like the compassion and the tenacity to have a business as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not an angry activist.
He isn't. Yeah.
He's a joyful activist.
Yeah. Yeah.
He kind of embodied it in even his definition of entrepreneurship, right? The way he talked about entrepreneurship being about investing in people. He started it off that way. He brought it back to the people by the end of the episode as well, which I thought was very special. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he spoke so much about community and he also spoke about like where your riches lie, which I really liked. Like where does your wealth truly lie? And for him, in a world that, he's started funds, he's been in that investment space, he's given money to people, he deals with money on a daily basis. It's not something that necessarily feels like it's scary for him, whereas money can be such a, like for me, it took me a long time to overcome some of my fears of money. But for him, he operates in that space daily, but his wealth doesn't sit there. And even that illustration of his daughter's fees, but he employs 670 people. Like you can see where his wealth lies. It lies in being able to be with people and support people and provide services for people and see people thrive. And yeah, that's really a really beautiful thing, I think. He even spoke about community when he was talking about the microloans thing.
Yeah.
And he said one of the things they look for is does this person have community?
Mhm.
Because if someone fails or if someone falls, who will stand for them? And so he focuses on building community first before they look for individual entrepreneurs. And for me, that was a completely different approach to how I've thought of microfinance in the past. In
Yeah.
my head, I kind of saw all these people walking up to an office and going in and giving a proposal of their business and asking for finance. But he's really flipped that and he goes out and they go out into the community and they find the communities that have potential for transformation and they work on that community level
Yeah.
instead of working on that individual level, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I guess like he also, I love that I've never actually thought of it that way, that poverty is such an isolating experience and it works to disengage people. And so even using community as a small bit of a response to that, or like trying to work backwards to get people out of that space, it seems like so counterintuitive, but yeah, pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
and in fact, that's also how he reinforces the idea of supporting the entrepreneur, right? Because he says supporting the entrepreneur looks like ensuring that they're not in isolation. And that means bringing them into a suitable ecosystem that they're a part of. So, and I feel like it just changes the way you look at entrepreneurs. And it also, in a way, it also reinforces Joyco, right? Like what we do in terms of getting them along to be a part of an ecosystem. of people. And in the same light, he talks about how it also helped, considering one thing he was vulnerable about in the podcast was having gone through depression himself. And and I feel like an ecosystem, I wouldn't say it's the answer to that, but it's definitely a support system to that issue, which a lot of entrepreneurs, I'm sure, do
Yeah.
yeah, come
Yeah.
across.
I think he said that alongside poverty, even with entrepreneurship, there's loneliness when you're failing because there's no one with you, but there's also loneliness when you're succeeding because there's
Mm.
also no one alongside you.
Mm.
And yeah, that just totally reinforces what you said, Asha, about the importance of the ecosystem. It's yeah, it's great.
On a different note, I think one thing that stood out to me from his podcast was also how he brought out the idea of engaging with quacks. Because he said that eventually, in these rural settings, people are not going to stop going to them. So, complaining about them, not engaging with them is not the idea. Instead, engage with them, train them. So, there is education on both ends, right? Like people get better service at the same time.
Mm.
These quacks serve at least some of the purpose that they come to solve. And I feel like for me that was a very different approach. And again, it again shows Satya's entrepreneurial mindset, right? How can we make a solution out of a problem? And I think some of our field visit, we did see this as a big issue
Mm.
where people did go to many of these quacks. And so I thought that was also something that really made so much sense.
Yeah. Asha, would you mind just explaining what a quack is? Because I know for me, when we went to Bihar, that was the first encounter that I'd had with that terminology and that role in society. And so for listeners who are perhaps outside of the South Asian context.
I just realized I don't have a like I have to check it.
I think it's just a person without a medical degree, but or without a formal doctor's degree. It's kind of like a mix of, I don't know if this is alternate medicine. It's not recognized, it's not legal, but it's still almost like people putting in trust into this person in the community to fix their problems or to solve their problems, even though the person might not be knowing what they're doing. Did you find a legal definition, Asha?
I did, which is pretty similar to what you said a second. But I just said that someone promoting health fraud through boastful claims and unscientific methods, not genuine medical expertise. Unqualified person, basically. Yeah. It's
Mm.
pretty much what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that just just also going on your point, Asha, on how entrepreneurial Satya is just by even having to suggest that. I feel like that's also so much in line with a little bit of design thinking because it's almost like you see it's not you coming and telling a person that what you're doing is wrong. There might be some space for it, especially if you're treating really if you're not very qualified. Um, but I think if the community relies on them naturally, then it's kind of like using the community to sort of help you inform what you should do with that person rather than displace them from society or rather than tell them that they're not needed. Why
Mm.
not come alongside and provide the skills for them? And so there's that little
Yeah.
bit of that design thinking element of like working with the community to help the community or walking alongside the community to help them get to a better place, maybe?
Yeah. That's a
Because
good observation.
yeah, because they're very much part of the system too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so how do we get them on board as well?
yeah. And I
And
mean,
doing it the right way. Yeah.
yeah. And whatever solutions need to come should come from them itself, right? And if somebody needs to stay embedded within the community, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, understanding, what are the reasons why people engage quacks. why do they feel safer going there
Yeah,
versus the medical system?
yeah,
Is it purely just financial that it's more accessible, or is it their
yeah,
approach? Is it their language? What are
yeah,
those motivators that mean that
yeah,
someone is making that choice?
yeah. Just trust also, right? Like if
Yeah.
how do you how do you put how do you change people or get people to trust something else when all they've known is one thing also?
Yeah. Well, actually, it reminded me about that piece of research that you did, or that you shared, not that you did, that you shared in one of our workshops about the metro line in Delhi and how people were not using it to its full capacity because it didn't necessarily reflect like
What they used to. Yeah.
the character and the familiarity of the bus system.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Um, yeah, fascinating.
yeah. People are always going to go back to what they're familiar with and what they're used to.
Mm. It got me thinking also a lot about, I think Satya also mentioned how in urban areas, community is the thing that they try to build in order for entrepreneurship to be successful. In rural areas, community is much stronger and is already there in many senses. And it even just made me start thinking about the work that we've been doing in Kansas City around the foster care system and thinking through in that project, we've been working a lot with single mums. And so much of that project is looking at how you can create community and support systems for these single mums so that they can move to a place of flourishing and thriving in their life. And it sounded so similar in many ways to the work that Satya does in terms of building community. Like, how do you put those different elements in place? And when he was talking about the Freedom Fund, which I was going to do a plug there, if anyone wants to contribute to, then then please do get in
Yeah,
touch.
good.
Um, but when he was talking about the Freedom Fund, he was talking about it as a way that we need a fund that is specific for this type of work because it's not just about employing people, it's about supporting them in how to live in the free world. And I think that's a repetitive pattern across so many of these episodes, is that it's not just about, again, kind of coming back to design thinking, like a linear quick fix solution.
Yeah,
It's so much more comprehensive and
yeah.
systems
It
based in that sense.
Yeah, it's almost like teaching somebody how do you use money and save money right from scratch. And you can't just hand out a wad of bills and say, save 20% of that and spend the rest. Or, like
Yeah.
you can't just instruct somebody to do that. Somebody has to figure out what it is they can do and how they go about it.
Mm,
Like I
yeah.
remember my mom trying to teach me how to save. And I was like, well, at some point in time, like I did try to save, but then I was like, but I also wanna because it was my first like hard-earned money, I also wanted to spend it. And so I didn't get to a point of like learning how to save money up until pretty late in my 20s, where it actually began to matter. And I think
Mm,
you only see that it matters after you've lived a couple of years in doing what you're doing and you start to build your life a little bit in that independence as well, because that independence and that goes so much in hand.
mm,
So, yeah.
Because I was thinking, even when he was talking about the Freedom Fund, right? It goes back to all the conversations we've had around freedom businesses. Freedom Fund, in a sense, I'd like to think, gives back the power to the people, right? Like you were talking about, Erica. It's almost like, I mean, I'd like to think it's that way, like where you give them the money and say, we trust you to start something,
Yeah.
as opposed to you have someone coming in to start something. Um, and that's beautiful as well. the importance of giving people that agency,
Yeah.
which is definitely something that will
Yeah.
not just benefit them, but change their life. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and even
hopefully.
and I think I'm remembering even the project that we did in Bihar with the bonded laborers. Like one of the challenges that came up with them starting something was that they actually needed the money now to live their lives, and so they couldn't actually wait to invest that money or save that money. It's just they needed the money right after they got back to their village. They needed money to survive. And so how do you help somebody tide over that part of their life before asking them to step into a position where they can dream about something in the future? Like if you're still in survival or struggling, you're not going to have the opportunity to dream or the
Yeah.
space to dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, that question, like what are the conditions that allow someone to dream, is
Yeah,
something that has come up in multiple projects that we've been doing.
yeah. Yeah. Satya also seems to be like a pretty big dreamer. And with that activism bit that he
Mm.
has as well, I feel like that involves so much of dreaming. Um, and being an entrepreneur, so much of dreaming. I think all the roles that he has speak to him as a dreamer. And so to wrap up today's episode, we want to leave you with these questions. What are some of the conditions that allow you to dream? And how does that dream impact the choices you make in your day to day? Thanks for listening in. We'll see you next time.